Hello, my darlings. You've chosen the perfect moment to step delicately into the shadows with me, Violet Nocturne. Tonight, I will unfold for you the tale of the Ebony Bloom, a story about beauty, possessiveness, and the dark, dark soil in which our souls sometimes take root. Now, take my hand and let us begin. It all started on an unusual estate, a mansion looming above the treetops like a mournful gargoyle, surrounded by a sprawling garden more enchanting than anything in nature's repertoire. This wasn't just an ordinary garden, oh no. It was notorious among horticulturists, an exotic Eden with specimens that defied both logic and climate. And presiding over it was Miss Eleanor Frost, a 37-year-old horticulturist whose beauty had the deadly fragility of frost on a window pane. Eleanor's obsession was cultivating the rarest of blooms, aspiring to claim the unattainable, a flower whispered about in myths, the Ebony Bloom. The Ebony Bloom was no ordinary legend. Local tales portrayed it as a black flower with a shocking red core, pulsing as though alive. They said its roots drank not water, but cruelty, and those who made it blossom would always pay the price. But Eleanor? Eleanor disregarded warnings as a poet dismisses silence, an unfortunate necessity. She ignored the shivers that crept down her spine every time she stumbled upon scraps of accounts about prior seekers of that cursed flower. They would disappear, or worse, they'd return empty-handed, not physically, but emotionally hollow. Eleanor's pursuit became a daily ritual of obsession. While the outer world waged wars of its own, she remained cloistered in the labyrinth of the living things she called her salvation. One morning, as a pale sun clawed through dense morning fog, Eleanor's long, gloved fingers traced a brittle sheet of paper in an old, forgotten book called Occulta Flora. The detailed illustration of a black, glowing flower with crimson veins seemed almost to vibrate under her touch. But what truly locked her breath were the inked instructions, rituals, a mixture of animal's blood, dense loam earth collected during a new moon, and one last peculiar ingredient, the willing exhale of a dying thing. Time sprinted as Eleanor prepared to execute those instructions, her heart pounding louder the nearer she approached the witching hour. At last, the time came. A full moon spilled cold light onto the garden-cast shadows as Eleanor bent over a bed of freshly tilled soil and began. She placed the components as prescribed into the ground and whispered the words that were inked in crimson within that book. Just as she uttered the last syllable, the night seemed to inhale. Everything muffled. The wind stopped. Crickets ceased their song. Even the pressure of her own breath against the air felt heavier. Then it happened. The ground beneath her began to shift, tremble. A gnarled root unfurled itself painfully from below, as though defying some ancient imprisonment. Slowly, impossibly, a single black bud appeared at the surface. If sorrow had a color, it would be this deep, this void. Its petals were sunken shadows, incapable of reflecting light, and its heart radiated a throbbing red glow that Eleanor swore matched the pulse of her own heartbeat. She had done it. She had cultivated the Ebony Bloom. But joy soon shifted into unease, as Eleanor noticed the soil around the plant wasn't just dark, it was slick, wet. When she dragged her hands away, they were sticky with a viscous, unearthly liquid that smelled of iron and rot. A blink later, the bloom twitched. Not a breeze-thrown rustle, but something deliberate, something alive. When its gnarly stem bent slightly as if bowing toward her, Eleanor gasped. The flower opened, revealing that brilliant red core inside, and then she heard it. A whisper. Not from the wind, no, but from deep in the earth. "What will you offer me, Eleanor?" the voice said, as silkily wicked as the petals of the flower itself. It took all her strength to find her voice, trembling on her lips as she responded. "I have nothing to offer but my devotion." The flower trembled. "Devotion? We have no use for sentiment. It is sacrifice that fertilizes our roots." The voice stretched like an echo within her marrow. Before she could plead or run, roots shot out from the soil, winding tightly around her ankles, pulling hard as she was thrust downward. She screamed as the very garden she had so devotedly curated began to consume her. The flower began to hum, a dreadful symphony vibrating against her senses, half mourning, half malevolence. Her heart raced while terror froze her muscles in place. And just as darkness overtook her senses, her last view was this: the ebony bloom growing taller, niacin-light veins spreading through each unfurled petal, pulsating greedily, as though feeding on her very essence. Its whisper, gloriously final, echoed as it said, "Your offering is acceptable." Nobody knows what truly became of her. The estate stands empty to this day, garden untouched as though enchanted. Curious vagabonds who venture there frequently report a looming unease in its presence. And the ebony bloom? It never withers, only grows. But my dear listeners, keep this in mind. If you're ever lured by the rarity of something so unattainably beautiful that you dare to possess it, make sure it does not possess you first. So what do you think? Would you dare search for it? Or are such whispers better left unheard in the echoing dark? Farewell, my darlings, till our next tale binds you to this twilight confession once more. Sweet dreams, or perhaps sweet visions of nightmares.